Princess Zaratiel of the Vortak Empire stood before the massive viewing screen of her family's flagship, watching the small blue world slowly rotating below them. Earth looked so peaceful from this distance, so innocent. Her forearms were crossed in a gesture that meant deep contemplation among her people, while her crystalline skin reflected the soft light of the distant star humans called the sun. "Are you certain about this decision, daughter?" Emperor Krexvor's voice rumbled through the observation deck. His massive frame, easily 3 times the size of any human, cast long shadows across the polished metal floor. Like all Vortak royalty, his skin was a deep purple crystal that could deflect most energy weapons, and his 6 eyes could see across multiple light spectrums. Zara turned to face her father, her own 6 eyes meeting his gaze with determination. "I am certain, father. The marriage alliance with Earth will secure our eastern borders against the hegemony. Their fleets grow stronger each day. But humans are so." The Emperor paused, searching for the right word, fragile. "They have no natural armor, no enhanced strength, no advanced sensory capabilities. This Marcuscan you've chosen appears to be nothing more than a simple diplomat." Zara's youngest brother, Prince Vextal, laughed from his position near the tactical displays. "Sister, I've studied their military records. Humans are barely above the Stone Age compared to our technology. Their strongest warriors would struggle against our youngest cadets. This Marcuscan has never even served in their military forces." "That is exactly why this will work," Zara replied calmly. "The other noble houses will see him as harmless, a mere political tool. They will not view him as a threat to their power or influence. This marriage will be seen as a diplomatic gesture, nothing more." She moved closer to the viewing screen, placing one of her hands against the cool surface. "Besides, I have spent months studying human culture and history. They have an interesting concept called love that transcends political necessity. Perhaps this arrangement will grow into something more meaningful than a simple alliance." Emperor Krexvor approached his daughter, his heavy footsteps echoing through the chamber. "You speak of love as if it is some great discovery. We Vortak have emotions too, daughter. But love does not win wars or secure borders." "No," Zara agreed, "but it creates bonds that cannot be broken by politics or time. If I am to rule this empire one day, I want to understand all forms of power, including the emotional bonds that drive human behavior." The communication console near the tactical station began to flash with incoming transmissions. Prince Vextal moved to answer it, his movements graceful despite his imposing size. "Father, the human delegation has arrived at the outer marker. They request permission to approach." "Granted," the Emperor commanded. "And prepare the formal reception chamber. We will meet this Marcuscan and see what kind of man our Zara has chosen." As the royal family prepared to leave the observation deck, Zara remained for a moment longer, watching Earth slowly turn below them. She had studied everything available about her intended husband. Marcuscan, age 32, born in a place called San Francisco. He had studied languages and cultures at prestigious human institutions, spoke 7 human languages fluently, and had worked in various diplomatic positions for the past decade. What intrigued her most was what was not in his official records. There were gaps in his history, periods of several years where his activities were not documented. Her intelligence advisors had dismissed these as unimportant, likely periods of academic study or minor diplomatic postings not worth recording. But Zara had learned that humans often kept their most interesting secrets in the places where information was deliberately absent. The human delegation ship was tiny compared to the Vortak flagship, roughly the size of one of their smaller shuttlecraft. As it approached the docking bay, Zara could see that it was sleek and efficient, built for speed rather than combat. Very much like what she expected from a peaceful diplomatic mission. The formal reception chamber of the Vortak flagship was an impressive display of imperial power. The walls were lined with displays showing the vast extent of their empire, hundreds of star systems spanning multiple galactic arms. Holographic projections showed their military strength, massive fleets of warships that could reduce entire worlds to ash. Emperor Krexvor took his position on the throne, and massive construction of rare metals and crystalline formations that had been passed down through 50 generations of rulers. Princess Zara stood to his right, wearing the formal robes of her station, while Prince Vextal and the other royal family members arranged themselves according to strict protocol. When the human delegation entered the chamber, Zara felt a moment of surprise. Marcuscan was not what she had expected. The official records had described him as average height for a human, with dark hair and eyes, but they had not captured the way he moved with quiet confidence, or the way his gaze took in every detail of the chamber without appearing to stare. He was indeed smaller than any Vorthak, as all humans were, but there was something in his posture that suggested he was not intimidated by the display of imperial power around him. The other members of the human delegation, clearly diplomatic staff and security personnel, stayed slightly behind him in a formation that seemed casual but was probably carefully planned. "Your Imperial Majesty," Marcus said, bowing in the precise manner that showed he had studied Vorthak customs. His voice was calm and carried clearly through the large chamber. "I am honored to stand before the throne of the Vorthak Empire and grateful for this opportunity to strengthen the bonds between our peoples." Emperor Krexvor studied the human for several long moments. "Marcus Chen of Earth, you come seeking the hand of my daughter, heir to the throne of an empire that spans the stars. What do you offer in return for such an alliance?" "I offer my loyalty, my dedication to the prosperity of both our peoples, and my commitment to understanding and honoring the traditions of the Vorthak while serving as a bridge between our civilizations," Marcus replied without hesitation. Prince Vextal stepped forward slightly. "And what of your military capabilities?" "In our culture, the spouse of a royal must be able to defend their partner and their honor." "What wars have you fought? What enemies have you defeated?" A slight smile crossed Marcus's face. "I have fought no wars, Prince Vextal. I am a diplomat, not a soldier. My battles are won with words, not weapons." Several of the Vorthak nobles present made sounds of disapproval. To them, this confirmed that the human was indeed as harmless and weak as they had assumed. But Zara noticed that Marcus's security team had positioned themselves in a way that provided optimal sightlines throughout the chamber, and that Marcus himself had chosen to stand in a position that gave him clear access to multiple exit routes. These were not the actions of a helpless diplomat. "Daughter," the emperor said, "approach and formally meet your intended." Zara moved forward with the graceful steps required by royal protocol. As she drew near to Marcus, she could see that his eyes held an intelligence that seemed to catalogue and analyze everything around him. When she stopped before him, he bowed again, this time in the specific manner appropriate for greeting a royal betrothed. "Princess Zaratiel," he said, "I hope our union will bring happiness to both of us, as well as peace and prosperity to our peoples." "As do I, Marcus Chen," she replied, using the formal response required by tradition. "But," she added, in English, "I look forward to learning more about you." His eyebrows raised slightly in surprise, and he responded in her own language, his pronunciation careful but accurate. "As I look forward to learning about you, Your Highness." The fact that he had learned to speak Vorthak well enough to hold a conversation impressed even Emperor Krexvor. "You have studied our language?" "I believe that understanding a people's language is the first step toward understanding their hearts and minds, Your Imperial Majesty. I have spent many months learning not just the words, but the cultural meanings behind them." This was the correct answer, showing respect for Vorthak culture and traditions. But Zara noticed that when he spoke, his eyes occasionally flicked to the tactical displays visible around the chamber, and he seemed to be processing the information they contained with surprising speed and accuracy. The formal ceremonies continued for several hours, including the presentation of gifts, the reading of the proposed treaty terms, and the ritual exchange of family histories. Throughout it all, Marcus Chen proved himself to be well prepared and knowledgeable about Vorthak customs. He made no cultural mistakes, showed appropriate deference to the emperor and other senior royals, and demonstrated genuine interest in learning more about their civilization. But Zara continued to notice small details that didn't match the profile of a simple diplomat. The way he automatically knew which direction was toward the ship's main engines based on the subtle vibrations in the deck. How his eyes tracked the movement patterns of the royal guards. The fact that he seemed to be counting the number of armed personnel present without appearing to do so. When the formal reception finally concluded, Zara was granted permission to speak privately with her intended husband in one of the smaller diplomatic chambers. The room was elegant but not overwhelming, designed to make visiting dignitaries feel comfortable while still impressing them with Vorthak craftsmanship. "Your performance today was flawless," she said once they were alone except for the required chaperones positioned at a respectful distance. "You clearly spent considerable time preparing for this meeting." "Thank you, Your Highness. I wanted to show proper respect for your family and your culture." Marcus moved to the large window that looked out into space, where Earth was still visible as a small blue disk. "Your world is beautiful, by the way. The diversity of environments and life forms is remarkable. You have studied our homeworld?" I have studied everything I could access about the Vortak Empire, its history, its culture, its technology. He turned back to face her. I believe that understanding is the foundation of any successful relationship, whether personal or political. Zara moved to join him at the window. Standing next to him, she was struck again by how much smaller he was than any Vortak male, yet how he seemed completely untroubled by being surrounded by beings who could easily overpower him. And, what conclusions have you reached from your studies? That your people value honor, strength, and loyalty above all else. That your empire has grown through a combination of military might and diplomatic skill. And that you personally are considered one of the most intelligent and capable members of the royal family, with a reputation for strategic thinking that extends far beyond the court. This was flattering but not surprising. Any competent diplomat would have learned such basic facts. But then, Marcus continued. I also learned that you have personally led 3 successful military campaigns against border raiders, that you designed the defensive strategy that protected the Kepler colonies during the last hegemony incursion, and that you speak 12 different languages including several that are considered extinct. Now Zara was impressed. These were not facts that appeared in standard diplomatic briefings. They would have required access to detailed military and academic records. You have been thorough in your research. As I said, understanding is important to me. Marcus paused, studying her face. I hope you will find our marriage to be more than just a political arrangement, Princess Zaratiel. I would like us to become genuine partners. And, what kind of partnership do you envision? One where we complement each other's strengths and support each other's goals. You bring military expertise, political connections, and deep cultural knowledge. I bring diplomatic experience, language skills, and... He paused, as if considering how much to reveal, other capabilities that might prove useful. What other capabilities? Marcus smiled, and, for just a moment, Zara caught a glimpse of something in his eyes that was far more complex than the simple diplomat he appeared to be. I suppose you'll have to wait and see, Your Highness. After all, a successful marriage should have some mysteries to be discovered over time. Before Zara could respond, Prince Vextal entered the chamber with several royal guards. Sister, father wishes to speak with you about the final treaty negotiations. Your human may wait in the guest quarters. As Marcus was escorted away, he turned back to Zara with another smile. Until tomorrow, Princess. I look forward to continuing our conversation. Watching him leave, Zara felt a growing certainty that there was much more to Marcus Chen than appeared in any official record. The question was whether these hidden depths would prove to be assets or dangers to their planned union. That evening, as she reviewed the intelligence reports about Earth and its military capabilities, she made a decision. Tomorrow, before the final marriage negotiations were concluded, she would conduct her own private investigation into the man who was about to become her husband. After all, if he had secrets, she wanted to know what they were before binding her future to his. Princess Zaratiel began her investigation before the first moon of her homeworld had completed its nightly cycle across the viewing screens of the flagship. While the rest of the ship followed standard sleep periods, she made her way through the corridors to the intelligence wing, her crystalline skin dimmed to avoid drawing attention from the night shift crew. The intelligence center of a Vortak flagship was among the most secure locations in the known galaxy. Layers of encryption, biometric scanners, and psychic shields protected the vast databases of information the Empire had collected over centuries of expansion. As heir to the throne, Zara had access to nearly everything, including files that would remain classified for decades after her father's eventual death. Computer, display all available information on Marcus Chen of Earth, including classified and restricted access files, she commanded once she had settled into the primary analysis station. The response came immediately. Princess Zaratiel, displaying comprehensive files. Warning, some information sources are classified above standard diplomatic review levels. What appeared on the holographic displays around her was far more extensive than what had been shared during the marriage negotiations. Standard diplomatic records showed his education, his language abilities, and his work with Earth's diplomatic corps. But the classified files told a very different story. Marcus Chen had been born in San Francisco, as the public records stated, but his parents were not the simple academics listed in the diplomatic profiles. His mother had been Dr. Elena Vasquez, one of Earth's leading experts in xenobiology and interspecies psychology. His father was Colonel James Chen, a career military officer who had specialized in unconventional warfare and intelligence operations. More interesting were the educational records that had been carefully omitted from the diplomatic files. Yes, Marcus had attended prestigious institutions for languages and cultural studies, but he had also completed advanced training at places with names like the Defense Language Institute, the School of Advanced Military Studies, and something called the Farm that appeared to be connected to Earth's intelligence services. The gaps in his official history began to make sense. From age 18 to 22, he had served in something called the United States Marine Corps, achieving the rank of captain and receiving decorations for combat operations in places whose names meant nothing to Zara but were clearly considered dangerous assignments. After leaving military service, he had spent 3 years at the previously mentioned farm before being transferred to what the records described as deep cover cultural integration assignments. Computer, analyze pattern of Marcus Chen's assignments and compare with known Earth intelligence operatives. The analysis took several minutes, during which Zara found herself feeling both impressed and concerned. When the results appeared, her concern deepened into something approaching alarm. Marcus Chen's assignment pattern matched the profile of what Earth intelligence services called a cultural penetration specialist. These operatives spent years establishing cover identities, learning languages and customs, and positioning themselves to gather information about foreign powers while appearing to be harmless diplomats or academics. But the analysis went deeper. The computer had cross-referenced Marcus's known locations with significant intelligence incidents affecting various species over the past decade. There were too many correlations to be coincidental. The negotiation breakdown between the hegemony and the Centauri Republic had occurred 6 months after Marcus had attended a cultural exchange conference on Centauri Prime. The mysterious data theft from the Krell military networks had happened while Marcus was serving as a language consultant to human merchants doing business in Krell space. Each incident, taken alone, could be explained as coincidence. Taken together, they painted a picture of someone who had spent years gathering intelligence on potential enemies and allies of humanity while maintaining the perfect cover of a peaceful diplomat. Princess, you are accessing some very sensitive materials. Zara spun around to find Intelligence Admiral Fekvar standing in the entrance to the analysis chamber. His scarred carapace and cybernetic eye enhancements marked him as a veteran of numerous intelligence wars, and his expression was carefully neutral. Admiral. I was not expecting company. Nor I, Princess. But certain security protocols alert senior staff when highly classified files are accessed during off-duty periods. He moved into the chamber, his movements careful and deliberate. May I ask what has prompted this late-night research into your intended husband? Zara gestured to the displays around her. I wanted to understand who I was really marrying, not just the diplomatic fiction presented to us. What I have found is troubling. Admiral Fekvar studied the information on the displays, his single organic eye tracking across the data while his cybernetic replacement processed additional spectrums of information. Indeed. Your human appears to be significantly more complex than his official profile suggests. He is a spy, Admiral. Possibly one of their best, based on these patterns. That would be my assessment as well, Princess. The question is whether this represents a threat to the Empire or an opportunity. Zara looked at him with surprise. An opportunity? Consider the implications, Your Highness. If Marcus Chen is indeed a highly skilled intelligence operative, what does his assignment to this marriage mission tell us about Earth's strategic thinking? The Admiral moved to one of the secondary displays and called up additional files. Humanity is a young species, barely 2 centuries into space travel. They have no energy weapons, no shield technology, no faster-than-light communication systems. Their ships are primitive, their colonies are few and poorly defended. By any objective measure, they should be irrelevant to galactic politics. New information appeared on the displays: human population figures, industrial capacity, technological development rates. And, yet, in the past 50 years, humans have managed to insert themselves into trade relationships with dozens of species, establish diplomatic contacts with most of the major powers, and position themselves as neutral mediators in several significant conflicts. Zara began to understand where the Admiral was leading. You believe they have been using intelligence operations to compensate for their lack of military and technological power. I believe, Admiral Fekvar said carefully, that humanity has recognized their limitations and has chosen to compete through superior information gathering and cultural manipulation rather than through direct military confrontation. It is, in its way, a brilliant strategy. The Admiral brought up additional files showing human activities throughout the galaxy. Look at their pattern of expansion, princess. They do not conquer worlds or demand tribute. Instead, they establish trade relationships, cultural exchanges, and diplomatic partnerships. They make themselves useful rather than threatening. But, if Marcus is a spy, then, his presence in this marriage represents Earth's recognition that our empire is the dominant power in this region of the galaxy. They are not trying to conquer us or subvert us. They are trying to understand us and position themselves as valuable allies. Zara considered this interpretation. It made sense from a strategic perspective, but it also meant that her marriage was even more of a political calculation than she had realized. And what does this mean for me personally, Admiral? Am I marrying a man or a mission? Admiral Thekvar's expression became more sympathetic. That, princess, is something you will have to determine for yourself. But I would suggest that a man capable of maintaining such a complex cover identity for so many years is likely to be highly intelligent, adaptable, and skilled at understanding the perspectives and motivations of others. In other words, he might actually make a good husband despite being a spy. Or perhaps because of it, princess. The skills required for deep cover intelligence work include empathy, patience, attention to detail, and the ability to build genuine relationships while maintaining hidden objectives. These are not necessarily incompatible with the qualities desired in a marriage partner. Zara found herself considering Marcus Chen in an entirely new light. The man she had spoken with earlier had demonstrated all of those qualities, but she had attributed them to diplomatic training rather than intelligence work. Now she wondered how much of his interest in understanding Vortak culture was personal and how much was professional. Admiral, I want to test a theory. Can you arrange for Marcus to be given access to some of our cultural databases? Nothing classified, but detailed information about our history, our arts, our social structures? That would be quite normal for someone preparing for marriage into the royal family, princess. What are you hoping to learn? I want to see what he chooses to study when he thinks no one is monitoring his access patterns. A diplomat would focus on protocol and public ceremonies. A spy would look for information about military traditions, power structures, and potential vulnerabilities. Admiral Thekvar smiled, an expression that was somewhat unsettling given his cybernetic enhancements. An excellent test, princess. I will make the arrangements. However, I should warn you that if Marcus Chen is as skilled as we suspect, he will likely anticipate that his access is being monitored. Then, we will see how good he really is. The next morning brought the formal continuation of marriage negotiations, but first came the cultural orientation sessions that were traditional when royal marriages involved foreign species. Marcus was escorted to one of the ship's cultural centers, a beautifully appointed chamber filled with holographic displays, historical artifacts, and interactive learning systems. From her position in the monitoring station, Zara watched as Marcus began exploring the available information. Admiral Thekvar sat beside her, both of them studying displays that showed exactly what files Marcus accessed, how long he spent reviewing each piece of information, and what search terms he used. For the first hour, Marcus behaved exactly as expected for a diplomat preparing for marriage. He studied royal protocols, reviewed the historical ceremonies associated with imperial marriages, and examined the cultural significance of various traditional gifts and symbols. But then, his pattern changed. Computer, show me information about Vortak military organization and command structure, Marcus requested, his voice carrying clearly through the monitoring system. That information is available in the cultural database as it relates to historical and ceremonial traditions, the computer responded. Displaying organizational charts and historical military ceremonies. Marcus studied the information carefully, but Zara noticed that his attention seemed focused on the command relationships and decision-making processes rather than the ceremonial aspects. He spent particular time reviewing the roles and responsibilities of different military ranks and the formal chains of authority. Admiral, Zara whispered, he is definitely gathering intelligence. Perhaps, princess. But watch what he does next. Marcus continued his studies, but his next request surprised both watchers. Computer, show me information about Vortak art and music. Particularly works that deal with themes of love and marriage. For the next 2 hours, Marcus immersed himself in Vortak cultural works. He studied poetry, viewed musical performances, and examined artistic traditions. His attention seemed genuine and focused, not the cursory review that a spy might conduct to maintain his cover. Computer, are there any works that deal specifically with cross-species relationships or marriages between individuals from different backgrounds? Limited information available on this topic, but there are some historical precedents and artistic works that explore related themes. Marcus spent considerable time studying these materials, taking what appeared to be actual notes rather than just gathering intelligence. At one point, he stopped to watch a particular musical performance 3 times, his expression suggesting genuine appreciation rather than professional analysis. He is studying our culture, Zara observed, but not just for intelligence purposes. He appears to be genuinely trying to understand us. A good intelligence operative, Admiral Thekvar noted, learns to find genuine interest in his assigned targets. It makes maintaining cover much easier and more sustainable. But which is driving which? Is he interested because he is a spy, or is he a good spy because he is genuinely interested? Before the Admiral could respond, Marcus made a request that surprised both of them. Computer, I would like to learn more about Princess Zaratiel specifically. Not her public accomplishments, which I have already studied, but information about her personal interests, her favorite cultural works, her philosophical perspectives. Such personal information about royal family members requires specific authorization for access. Marcus nodded as if he had expected this response. I understand. Perhaps instead you could recommend cultural works that reflect the intellectual and artistic preferences typical of someone with her educational background and interests? This was a clever approach that demonstrated sophisticated understanding of how to gather personal intelligence without directly requesting restricted information. But it also suggested that his interest in understanding Zara personally was strong enough that he was willing to take risks to pursue it. Princess, Admiral Thekvar said quietly, I believe your intended husband is conducting intelligence gathering, personal research, and genuine cultural education simultaneously. This suggests a level of operational sophistication that is quite impressive. And quite dangerous, Zara replied. A man who can pursue multiple objectives simultaneously while appearing to focus on only one is not someone to be underestimated. No, Princess. But he is also not someone to be dismissed. If you are going to marry him, you need to understand that you are dealing with a genuine professional. This could be either very good or very bad for your future together. As they continued watching, Marcus made one final request that changed Zara's understanding of the situation completely. Computer, could you provide me with information about appropriate gifts for a Vorthak bride? Specifically, gifts that would demonstrate respect for her intelligence and capabilities rather than just her beauty or status? This was not a question that any spy would need to ask for intelligence purposes. This was the question of a man who was genuinely concerned about making a good impression on his future wife. Zara felt something shift in her understanding of Marcus Chen. He was definitely a spy, probably a very good one. But he was also a man who was taking their approaching marriage seriously enough to seek advice on how to honor her properly. Admiral, she said finally, I think I need to have another conversation with my intended husband. This time, a more honest one. Are you planning to reveal what you have discovered, Princess? Perhaps. Or perhaps I will see if he is ready to reveal it himself. Princess Zaratiel found Marcus in the observation lounge during the ship's evening cycle, standing before the great viewing wall that showed the spectacular sight of her homeworld rising over the horizon of one of its moons. He appeared lost in contemplation, his hands clasped behind his back in a posture that somehow managed to look both relaxed and alert. The view is quite stunning from this angle, she said as she approached, deliberately making her footsteps audible so as not to startle him. Marcus turned with a smile that seemed genuine. Your Highness. Yes, it is remarkable. I have seen images of Vorthak Prime, but they don't capture the way the crystal formations in your mountain ranges reflect the light of your twin suns. You have been studying our geology as well as our culture? Everything I can learn, Princess. I want to understand not just your people, but the world that shaped them. Marcus gestured toward the planet below. Those crystal mountains, for instance. I imagine they have had a significant impact on Vorthak architecture and artistic traditions. Zara moved to stand beside him, noting that he had positioned himself so that he could see both the view and the entrance to the lounge. They have. Our ancestors learned to work with crystal formations long before we developed metalworking technologies. It taught us to value precision, patience, and harmony with natural structures. Qualities that seem to define Vorthak engineering and military strategy as well, Marcus observed. Your ships and weapons are remarkably efficient, with no wasted motion or unnecessary components. This comment demonstrated a level of understanding that went beyond casual observation. Marcus had clearly spent time analyzing Vorthack technology in considerable detail. You have studied our military capabilities? I have studied everything about your civilization that I could access, Marcus replied. I believe that understanding a people's achievements helps one understand their values and priorities. Zara decided to test the waters. And what conclusions have you reached about Vorthack values? Marcus was quiet for a moment, apparently considering his response carefully. Your people value competence above almost everything else. Honor, loyalty, and strength are important, but they are demonstrated through capability rather than proclaimed through words. Your society rewards those who can accomplish difficult tasks efficiently and effectively. An accurate assessment. And how does that make you feel about your position in this marriage alliance? Now Marcus turned to look at her directly, and Zara could see something shifting in his expression. The diplomatic mask was still in place, but there was something more serious underneath it. Honestly, Princess? It makes me wonder what I need to prove to earn genuine respect rather than just political acceptance. What do you think you would need to prove? That I can be a genuine partner to you, not just a diplomatic symbol. That I can contribute something of value to your goals and objectives. That despite the obvious physical and technological differences between our species, I can be someone worthy of your trust. This was a much more honest answer than she had expected. And how would you go about proving such things? Marcus smiled, but this time there was something different about it. Something that reminded Zara of the expression she had glimpsed briefly during their first conversation. I suppose that would depend on what challenges arise, Princess. I have found that character is best revealed under pressure rather than in formal ceremonies. Before Zara could respond, the ship's communication system activated with an urgent tone that indicated priority military traffic. Alert, all senior staff to battle stations. Unknown vessels detected approaching the fleet perimeter. The observation lounge immediately began to clear as personnel hurried to their assigned positions. Marcus started to move toward the exit, but Zara caught his arm with one of her hands. You should return to the guest quarters, she told him. This is a military situation. Of course, Your Highness. But Marcus paused, looking back at the tactical displays that were beginning to show information about the approaching vessels. Princess, those ships. What about them? Marcus moved closer to the displays, his diplomatic bearing replaced by something much more focused and analytical. Those are hegemony attack formations. 3 heavy cruisers with escort destroyers, approaching in a pattern designed to maximize firepower while minimizing target profiles. Zara stared at him in surprise. How could you possibly know that? Because I have studied hegemony military tactics as extensively as I have studied Vorthack culture, Princess. And, unless I am very much mistaken, they are here specifically to disrupt this marriage alliance. The implications hit Zara immediately. If the hegemony attacked during the marriage negotiations, it would appear that Earth had somehow betrayed the location and timing of the diplomatic mission. The alliance would be destroyed before it could begin, and suspicion would fall on humanity as either incompetent or treacherous. I need to get to the command center, Zara said, but Marcus caught her arm this time. Princess, with respect, I think you need to consider the possibility that this attack is not coincidental. Someone provided the hegemony with very specific intelligence about this meeting. Are you suggesting that humans betrayed us? No, Your Highness. I am suggesting that someone wanted this alliance to fail and chose this method to ensure it. The question is who benefits from maintaining hostility between Earth and the Vorthack Empire. Zara felt the logic of his argument even as alarms continued to sound throughout the ship. The hegemony benefits by preventing us from securing our eastern borders. Yes, but they are not the only ones who benefit. Within your own empire, there are undoubtedly those who oppose closer ties with humanity. Within Earth's government, there are factions that prefer isolation to alliance. Any of these groups could have provided the necessary intelligence. This is speculation, Marcus. Right now we need to focus on the immediate threat. Agreed. But I would like to request permission to observe the tactical situation from the command center. I may be able to provide insights into hegemony strategy that could prove useful. Zara hesitated. Allowing a foreign diplomat access to the command center during battle conditions violated numerous security protocols. But, if Marcus truly understood hegemony tactics as well as he claimed, his advice could be valuable. Very well. But, you will remain in the observation section and speak only when directly asked for input. Understood, Princess. The command center of the Vorthak flagship was a masterpiece of military engineering, with holographic displays showing the tactical situation from multiple perspectives and communication channels linking the flagship to every vessel in the fleet. Emperor Krexfor stood at the central command position, his massive frame radiating authority as he received reports from his commanders. Hegemony forces are maintaining approach vector, Admiral Drekhan reported from the tactical station. Estimated time to weapons range, 12 minutes. Fleet status, the Emperor demanded. All vessels reporting ready for combat. Shields at maximum, weapons charging to full power. Prince Vextal looked up from his position at the intelligence station. Father, we have 18 ships including the flagship. The hegemony formation includes only 8 vessels. They are either supremely confident or this is some kind of probe. Or, Marcus said quietly from the observation section, they have additional forces positioned where your sensors cannot detect them. Emperor Krexfor turned to look at the human diplomat. Explain. Marcus moved to one of the auxiliary displays, his fingers dancing across the controls with surprising familiarity. If I may, Your Imperial Majesty? Hegemony tactical doctrine calls for what they term cascade ambush formations when attacking superior forces. The display changed to show a three-dimensional representation of local space, with the current positions of both fleets marked in different colors. The visible attack force serves two purposes: it fixes your fleet in position and masks the approach of additional forces using stealth technology or natural cover. Our sensors would detect stealth vessels, Admiral Drekhan protested. Not necessarily, Marcus replied, bringing up additional information on the display. Hegemony stealth systems are designed specifically to exploit the sensor frequencies typically used by Vorthak ships. They studied your technology extensively during the border conflicts. Emperor Krexfor studied the display with growing concern. Where would you position these theoretical hidden forces? Marcus manipulated the display to show several possible approach vectors. Here, using the sensor shadow created by the debris field from the old mining operations. Here, approaching from the direction of your homeworld where they would be masked by natural electromagnetic interference. And, here, coming from the opposite direction where they would be concealed by the solar radiation from your twin suns. Admiral, the Emperor commanded, modify sensor sweeps to check these vectors. The tactical displays updated as the Vorthak sensors focused on the areas Marcus had indicated. Within moments, new contacts began appearing on the screens. Contact. Multiple vessels detected in debris field. Configuration matches hegemony heavy assault ships. Additional contacts bearing 27 Mark V. Cruiser-class vessels using solar interference for concealment. Confirmed contacts from planetary direction. Estimated total enemy force, 36 vessels. The command center fell silent as the implications became clear. The Vorthak fleet was outnumbered 2-1 by an enemy force that had achieved complete tactical surprise. Without Marcus's warning, they would have been caught completely off guard when the hidden forces revealed themselves. Human, Emperor Krexfor said, his voice carrying a new note of respect, how did you know to look for these formations? Because I have made it my business to understand the capabilities and tactics of every major military power in this region of space, Your Imperial Majesty. Earth's survival depends on knowing who our potential enemies and allies really are. Princess Zara felt several pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. Marcus was not just a spy gathering general intelligence. He was a military intelligence specialist who had spent years studying the strategic situation in this region of the galaxy. His assignment to this diplomatic mission was not coincidental. Father, she said, I request permission to speak privately with Marcus Chen regarding additional intelligence he may possess. Permission granted, but make it quick. We have approximately 8 minutes before we are in range of their weapons. Zara led Marcus to a small briefing chamber adjacent to the command center. Once the door had sealed, she turned to face him directly. Who are you really, Marcus Chen? Marcus met her gaze steadily. I am exactly who I claim to be, Princess. I am a diplomat seeking to establish an alliance between our peoples. But, you are correct that this is not my only identity. What else are you? I am a strategic intelligence analyst specializing in galactic military balance and threat assessment. My assignment to this diplomatic mission was indeed based on my expertise regarding regional security situations. And why should I trust someone who has been lying to me since we first met? Because, Princess Zaratil, Marcus said, his voice taking on a tone that was completely different from his previous diplomatic manner, everything I have told you about my desire for this alliance to succeed has been absolutely true. Earth needs this partnership to survive what is coming. And, based on what we are seeing here today, your empire needs Earth's intelligence capabilities more than you realized. What do you mean, what is coming? Marcus moved to the briefing room's display system and brought up a galactic map that showed the positions of all major powers. The hegemony has spent the past 5 years building a coalition aimed at breaking up the major powers in this region. They have convinced the Krell Confederacy, the Terminus Empire, and at least 3 smaller powers to join them in what they called a restructuring campaign. Red symbols appeared on the map, showing the locations and estimated strengths of hostile forces. Their goal is to prevent any single power from becoming strong enough to challenge their expansion. The alliance between Earth and the Vortak Empire represents exactly the kind of threat they want to eliminate. Zara studied the map with growing alarm. You are saying this attack is just the beginning. I am saying this attack is designed to ensure that Earth and the Vortak Empire remain suspicious of each other rather than becoming genuine allies. If they can destroy this fleet and make it appear that humans betrayed your location, they achieve multiple objectives simultaneously. And Earth's role in this larger conflict? Earth is small, weak, and isolated, Marcus said bluntly. But we have developed intelligence capabilities that far exceed our military or technological strength. We can provide information that larger powers cannot obtain through conventional means. In exchange, we need protection and technological assistance. The communication system in the briefing room activated. Princess Zaratil, your immediate return to the command center is requested. We need to continue this conversation later, Zara said as they prepared to return to the battle. Agreed, Princess. But first, I need to ask you to trust me for the next few minutes. I believe I know how to turn this tactical situation to our advantage, but it will require convincing your father to take actions that will seem counterintuitive. Zara studied his face, looking for any sign of deception. What she saw was confidence, determination, and something that looked very much like genuine concern for her safety and that of her people. Very well, Marcus-chan. Show me what else you have been hiding. When Princess Zaratil and Marcus returned to the command center, the tactical situation had deteriorated rapidly. The hegemony forces were now clearly visible on all sensors, their formations tightening into attack positions that would allow them to focus overwhelming firepower on the Vortak fleet. Status report, Emperor Krexvor demanded as they approached the command station. Enemy forces have completed deployment, Admiral Drekhan reported grimly. 36 vessels confirmed, including 8 heavy cruisers and 12 assault ships. They will be in optimal firing position in 4 minutes. Our options, Admiral? We can attempt a fighting withdrawal toward the home system, but they have superior speed and will likely intercept us before we can reach reinforcements. Alternatively, we can attempt to break through their formation, but casualties would be severe. Prince Vextal looked up from his station with obvious frustration. Father, both options assume we are fighting a conventional battle against conventional tactics. But this entire situation feels like a setup. How did they know exactly when and where to find us? Your Highness, Marcus said quietly, may I suggest a third option? Every eye in the command center turned to the human diplomat. Emperor Krexvor studied him for a long moment before responding. Speak. Marcus moved to the central tactical display, his movements now showing none of the diplomatic deference he had displayed earlier. The hegemony has positioned their forces assuming you will respond according to standard Vortak tactical doctrine. They expect you to either retreat or attack directly. What they are not prepared for is something completely unexpected. Such as a coordinated attack by Vortak and human forces working together. The silence in the command center was absolute. Admiral Drekhan was the first to speak. Human, we appreciate your desire to assist, but your ship is a diplomatic vessel with no meaningful weapons systems. Marcus smiled, and this time there was nothing diplomatic about the expression. Admiral, with great respect, that assumption is exactly what we were counting on. He manipulated the tactical display to show the human delegation ship, which had been holding position at a respectful distance from the Vorthack fleet. Computer, transmit authorization code Alpha 77 Charlie to the vessel Harmony's Edge. The display updated immediately as the human ship's true configuration became visible. What had appeared to be a simple diplomatic transport was revealed to be something far more sophisticated. Weapon ports opened along its hull, advanced sensor arrays deployed, and shield generators that had been carefully concealed came online. Stealth attack vessel, Admiral Drekhan breathed. Military-grade weapons and defensive systems. The Harmony's Edge is equipped with experimental human technology that your sensors were not designed to detect, Marcus explained. Plasma weapons based on principles that we developed from studying hegemony energy signatures, and stealth systems that were specifically designed to operate undetected in the presence of Vorthack sensor networks. Emperor Krexvor's expression was unreadable. You brought a warship to a diplomatic meeting. I brought insurance, Your Imperial Majesty. Earth's intelligence services have been tracking hegemony movements for months. We knew there was a significant chance that they would attempt to disrupt these negotiations through military action. And, you said nothing? Would you have proceeded with the meeting if I had told you that we expected a hegemony attack? Marcus asked. Or would you have assumed that humans had somehow compromised the mission security? The logic was unassailable, but Zara could see that her father was struggling with the implications. You deliberately allowed us to walk into this trap. No, Your Imperial Majesty. I deliberately ensured that when the hegemony sprung this trap, we would be prepared to turn it against them. Marcus brought up additional information on the tactical display. The hegemony formation is optimized for fighting Vorthack vessels using known Vorthack capabilities. They have not accounted for human weapons technology or for coordinated tactics between our forces. Explain your proposal, the Emperor commanded. The Harmony's Edge can approach the hegemony formation using stealth systems that will prevent detection until we are in optimal firing position. While we conduct a surprise attack on their command vessels, the Vorthack fleet executes a coordinated assault that takes advantage of the confusion and damage we create. Admiral Drekhan studied the proposed attack plan as it appeared on the displays. The timing would have to be precisely coordinated. If the human vessel is detected before reaching attack position, it will be destroyed before it can affect the battle. Agreed. But, if the attack succeeds, we will eliminate their command and control capabilities while your fleet engages their remaining forces under much more favorable conditions. Prince Vextal leaned forward to examine the technical specifications of the human weapons systems. These plasma weapons, they are designed specifically to penetrate hegemony shield configurations. That is correct, Your Highness. We have spent considerable time and resources developing technologies that can counter their defensive systems. Emperor Krexvor was silent for nearly a full minute, weighing the options before them. Finally, he turned to face Marcus directly. Human, this plan requires me to trust not only your tactical assessment but also your true motivations. If this is some elaborate deception, my fleet will be destroyed and my empire will be left vulnerable to invasion. Your Imperial Majesty, Marcus replied, his voice carrying absolute conviction. If this plan fails, the human crew of the Harmony's Edge will die alongside your people. We are not asking you to trust us with your lives while keeping ourselves safe. We are asking you to let us fight beside you. The Emperor looked toward his daughter. Zara, what is your assessment? Princess Zaratil felt the weight of the decision. Everything about Marcus Chen had proven to be more complex than it initially appeared, but his analysis of the tactical situation had been accurate, and his proposal offered their only realistic chance of victory. Father, I believe we should accept his plan. But, I also believe we need additional assurances about human intentions. What kind of assurances? Marcus Chen will transfer to our flagship and assume a position in our tactical command structure for the duration of the battle. If this is a deception, he will share our fate. If it is genuine cooperation, he will have the opportunity to prove his value as an ally. Marcus nodded without hesitation. I accept those conditions, Princess. Very well, Emperor Krexvor declared. Admiral Drekhan, implement the coordinated attack plan. Marcus Chen, you will serve as liaison to the human vessel and advisor on hegemony capabilities. We have 2 minutes to coordinate our forces. The next few minutes passed in a flurry of intense activity as both fleets prepared for battle. Marcus worked with Admiral Drekon to establish communication protocols between the human and Vorthack vessels, while tactical officers updated their targeting systems to account for the new attack plan. Harmony's Edge reports ready for stealth approach, the communications officer announced. Vorthack fleet in attack formation, Admiral Drekon confirmed. All vessels report weapons charged and shields at maximum. Hegemony forces holding position, the sensor officer reported. No indication they have detected the human vessel's true capabilities. Emperor Krexfor took his position at the command station, his imposing presence filling the center of the command deck. Marcus Chen, this is your plan. What are we likely to encounter when the battle begins? Your Imperial Majesty, the Hegemony commanders are expecting this to be a relatively simple battle against an outnumbered opponent. They will likely attempt to destroy your flagship first, believing that eliminating your command structure will cause the rest of your fleet to retreat or surrender. And, when they discover the human vessel? They will initially assume it is some kind of Vorthack technology they haven't encountered before. By the time they realize they are fighting human weapons systems, their command ships should be severely damaged and their formation disrupted. Harmony's Edge reports attack position achieved, communications announced. Awaiting final authorization. Emperor Krexfor looked around the command center, meeting the eyes of his senior officers and, finally, settling his gaze on his daughter and Marcus Chen. This battle will determine not only the fate of this fleet, but the future relationship between our peoples. Are we ready? Ready, Father, Princess Zara replied. Ready, Your Imperial Majesty, Marcus confirmed. Execute attack plan. The tactical displays erupted into chaos as both fleets engaged simultaneously. The human vessel struck first, its plasma weapons tearing into the Hegemony command ships with devastating effectiveness. The enemy shields, calibrated to defend against Vorthack energy weapons, were nearly useless against the different frequency and power characteristics of human technology. Direct hits on enemy flagship, the sensor officer announced. Their command ship is showing massive system failures. The Vorthack fleet followed immediately, their own weapons striking at the confused and disorganized Hegemony formation. Without effective command and control, the enemy vessels found themselves fighting as individual ships rather than as a coordinated force. Enemy formation is breaking apart, Admiral Drekon reported with obvious satisfaction. Multiple vessels attempting to retreat. But Marcus was studying the tactical displays with a worried expression. Admiral, those ships that are retreating, they're not running away. They're repositioning for a different kind of attack. Explain. Hegemony doctrine includes protocols for situations where command structure is compromised. The surviving ships will attempt to implement what they call a final solution attack. New warnings began appearing on the tactical displays as the retreating Hegemony vessels suddenly changed course, accelerating directly toward the largest concentration of Vorthack ships. Ramming attack. Admiral Drekon realized. They're going to try to destroy as many of our vessels as possible through collision and self-destruction. Can we stop them? Emperor Krexfor demanded. Not all of them, the admiral replied grimly. We can destroy some, but others will reach their targets. Marcus was already moving toward the communication station. Your Imperial Majesty, request permission to coordinate directly with the Harmony's Edge. Human vessels are more maneuverable than Vorthack ships. We might be able to intercept some of the ramming attacks. Granted. For the next several minutes, the battle became a desperate race as human and Vorthack vessels worked together to prevent the Hegemony ships from completing their suicide attacks. The smaller, more agile human vessel darted between the larger Vorthack ships, using its superior speed and maneuverability to position itself between the enemy vessels and their intended targets. Harmony's Edge taking heavy damage, the communications officer reported. They've successfully intercepted 2 ramming attempts, but their hull integrity is failing. Order them to retreat, Emperor Krexfor commanded. Sir, Marcus said, his voice tight with concern, the Harmony's Edge is the only vessel fast enough to intercept the remaining attack. If they retreat now, your flagship will be destroyed. The tactical display showed the final Hegemony vessel accelerating directly toward the command ship, its trajectory calculated to cause maximum damage to the Vorthack command structure. Harmony's Edge maintaining intercept course, communications reported. Captain Martinez reports they will not abandon the mission. Princess Zara watched the displays with growing horror as the human vessel, already badly damaged, positioned itself directly in the path of the approaching enemy ship. The collision, when it came, lit up the tactical screens with a brilliant flash that temporarily overloaded the sensors. When the displays cleared, both the enemy vessel and the Harmony's Edge had been destroyed, their debris scattered across space in a slowly expanding cloud of twisted metal and plasma residue. The command center fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. The battle was over, and the Vortak fleet had emerged victorious, but the cost had been higher than anyone had anticipated. Final casualty report, Emperor Krexvor said quietly. 3 Vortak vessels damaged, 1 severely but reparable. No Vortak vessels destroyed. Admiral Drekon paused. Human vessel Harmony's Edge destroyed with all hands. Estimated crew, 47. Marcus stood motionless at his station, staring at the debris field where his ship had been moments before. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. Captain Martinez had 2 children, he said. Lieutenant Santos was getting married next month. Engineer Chen was my cousin. Princess Zara moved to stand beside him. Marcus, I am so sorry. They knew the risks, Princess. We all knew the risks. But they believed that this alliance was important enough to die for. Emperor Krexvor approached them both, his massive form somehow managing to convey both authority and sympathy. Marcus Chen of Earth, your people fought with honor beside us today. They will be remembered. Thank you, Your Imperial Majesty. But I have questions that require answers before we proceed further. This battle has revealed capabilities and knowledge that suggest Earth's involvement in galactic affairs is far more extensive than you have admitted. Marcus nodded. Yes, sir. I believe it is time for complete honesty between us. 3 hours after the battle, the royal family and senior officers gathered in the flagship's most secure conference chamber. Marcus Chen sat at the oval table, no longer maintaining any pretense of being a simple diplomat. The man who had seemed harmless and scholarly now carried himself with the bearing of someone accustomed to making life and death decisions under pressure. Emperor Krexvor began the session with formal recognition. Before we address other matters, let it be recorded that the crew of the human vessel Harmony's Edge died with honor defending this fleet. They will be remembered in our military chronicles alongside our own fallen warriors. Thank you, Your Imperial Majesty, Marcus replied. Their families will be honored to know that their sacrifice was recognized by the Vortak Empire. Now, the Emperor continued, explain to us exactly who you are and what Earth's true objectives are in this region of space. Marcus was quiet for a moment, apparently considering how much to reveal. Your Imperial Majesty, my full title is Colonel Marcus Chen, Strategic Intelligence Division, Earth Unified Defense Command. For the past 8 years, I have been assigned to what we call the Galactic Assessment Project. Admiral Thekvar leaned forward with obvious interest. Assessment of what, specifically? Assessment of every major military and political power within approximately 50 light-years of Earth. Our goal has been to understand the strategic balance in this region and identify potential threats and opportunities for humanity's long-term survival. Princess Zara studied Marcus's face as he spoke. Gone was any trace of diplomatic uncertainty or scholarly hesitation. This was a military intelligence officer briefing senior commanders about strategic realities. What conclusions has this assessment reached? Emperor Krexvor asked. That humanity cannot survive as an isolated power, Marcus replied without hesitation. We are too small, too weak, and too far behind technologically to defend ourselves against the major threats in this region. We need allies, and we need them before the current balance of power shifts further against smaller civilizations. Prince Vextal brought up a holographic display showing the regional political situation. And you have identified the Vortak Empire as your preferred ally? We have identified the Vortak Empire as the most powerful civilization in this region that shares compatible values with humanity. Your people value competence, honor, and strategic thinking. You have a history of forming beneficial alliances rather than simply conquering weaker powers. And your military capabilities are sufficient to provide meaningful protection for human space. In exchange for what? Admiral Drekon asked. What does Earth offer that we cannot obtain elsewhere? Marcus manipulated the display to show a different view of galactic politics. Information, Admiral. Human intelligence gathering capabilities are among the most sophisticated in known space. We may be weak militarily, but we are very good at learning things that others want to keep secret. Such as? such as the fact that the hegemony's attack today was coordinated with similar attacks planned against 3 other major powers over the next 6 months. Their goal is to prevent any regional alliances from forming while they consolidate control over the Rim territories. New data appeared on the displays, showing intelligence reports about hegemony activities, troop movements, and diplomatic initiatives. The scope and detail of the information was impressive even by Vorthack standards. How did you obtain this intelligence? Admiral Thekvar asked. Through a combination of electronic surveillance, human operatives in deep cover assignments, and information sharing with other civilizations that share our concerns about hegemony expansion. Emperor Krexvor studied the intelligence reports with obvious concern. This suggests that today's battle was just the beginning of a much larger conflict. Yes, Your Imperial Majesty. The hegemony is implementing what they call the fragmentation protocol. Their strategy is to prevent the formation of any alliances that could challenge their expansion by ensuring that major powers remain isolated and suspicious of each other. Princess Zara felt a chill as she recognized the implications. Which means that even if we had defeated their fleet today, they would have found other ways to prevent this alliance from succeeding. Exactly, Princess. Military action was just their most direct option. They also have economic pressure, political subversion, and information warfare capabilities that they will use to achieve their objectives. And Earth's proposal for countering this strategy? Emperor Krexvor asked. Marcus stood and moved to the display controls, bringing up a comprehensive strategic analysis that clearly represented months or years of careful planning. Coordinated intelligence sharing and joint military operations between Earth and the Vorthack Empire expanded to include other civilizations that share our concerns about hegemony expansion. Specifically, we propose bringing the Centauri Republic, the Free Traders Alliance, and possibly the Krell Confederacy into a mutual defense agreement. Admiral Drekon studied the proposed alliance structure. The Krell Confederacy has been moving closer to the hegemony position in recent months. Because they believe they have no other choice, Admiral. Krell intelligence services are aware of the hegemony's long-term plans, but they assess their own military capabilities as insufficient to resist hegemony pressure. If we can demonstrate that a viable alternative alliance exists, Krell's strategic thinking may change. Prince Vextal brought up additional displays showing military force comparisons. The combined military strength of your proposed alliance would be roughly equal to current hegemony capabilities. In terms of ships and weapons, yes. But we believe the alliance would have significant advantages in terms of intelligence gathering, tactical coordination, and strategic flexibility. The hegemony's strength is also their weakness. They are a centralized power structure that depends on rigid control and predictable responses. Emperor Krexvor was silent for several minutes, studying all the information that Marcus had presented. Finally, he turned to address his daughter directly. Zara, you will be inheriting the consequences of whatever decision we make today. What is your assessment of this proposal? Princess Zara had been thinking about more than just the strategic implications. Father, I believe the intelligence and analysis that Marcus has presented is accurate and valuable. But I also believe we need to address the personal dimensions of this situation. Explain. Marcus Chen has spent years preparing for this mission, learning our language and culture, studying our military capabilities, and positioning himself to become my husband. The question is whether his personal commitment to me and to this alliance is genuine, or whether I am simply another intelligence target. All eyes in the conference chamber turned to Marcus, who met Zara's gaze directly. Princess Zaratiel, he said, I will not insult your intelligence by claiming that romantic love guided my assignment to this mission. I was chosen for this role because of my qualifications and my mission record, not because of my personal desires. I see. However, Marcus continued, over the past months of studying your culture and preparing for this assignment, I have come to genuinely respect and admire the person you are. Your intelligence, your strategic thinking, your commitment to your people's welfare, these are qualities that I find genuinely attractive, not just professionally useful. And if I asked you to choose between your loyalty to Earth and your commitment to me? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Princess, I hope such a choice will never be necessary. But, if it were? I have lost friends and colleagues fighting for the alliance we are proposing today. I believe that the future of both our peoples depends on this partnership succeeding. I would not abandon that commitment lightly. Even if it meant losing me? Even then. Because I believe that the person you are would not respect someone who would abandon their principles for personal gain, even if those principles sometimes require painful sacrifices. Princess Zara found herself oddly reassured by this answer. A man who would abandon his deepest commitments for romantic purposes would likely abandon romantic commitments for other purposes as well. Father, she said, I believe we should proceed with both the strategic alliance and the marriage that will symbolize it. But I want certain modifications to the proposed terms. What modifications? First, Marcus will serve as official liaison between Earth and Vorthak Military Intelligence Services, with full access to our strategic planning processes and complete authority to coordinate joint operations. If we are going to be allies, we need to trust each other completely. Agreed. What else? Second, our marriage will be a genuine partnership in all respects. Marcus will not be a decorative consort or a political symbol. He will be my advisor, my partner in strategic planning, and my equal in all matters relating to our shared responsibilities. Emperor Krexvor looked toward Marcus. Do you accept these terms? I accept them gladly, Your Imperial Majesty. I could not ask for a better arrangement. Then, let us formalize this alliance. Admiral Drekhan, prepare a communication to Earth confirming the successful conclusion of negotiations. Admiral Thekvar, begin coordination with Earth Intelligence Services for immediate information sharing about hegemony activities. As the meeting began to break up and various officers departed to implement the new agreements, Princess Zara remained behind with Marcus. You realize, she said once they were alone, that you will be leaving everything you have known on Earth to live among us permanently? I realize that, Princess. But I also realize that I will be gaining something that I never expected to find. Which is? Marcus smiled, and, for the first time since she had met him, the expression seemed completely genuine and unguarded. A partner who was intelligent enough to figure out who I really was, strong enough to confront me about it, and wise enough to find a way to make it work for both of us. You are not disappointed that your harmless diplomat disguise proved ineffective? Princess Zaratil, Marcus said, taking her hand in both of his, I was never trying to fool you permanently. I was trying to create an opportunity for us to discover who we really are together. Today's battle gave us that opportunity, and I am very pleased with what we discovered. Zara felt something shift in her understanding of their relationship. The political alliance was important, the strategic considerations were vital, but there was something else developing between them that was entirely separate from duties and obligations. Marcus Chen, she said, I believe our marriage may prove to be more interesting than either of our governments anticipated. I certainly hope so, Princess. I have learned that the most worthwhile things in life are usually more complex than they initially appear. As they stood together looking out at the stars, Zara reflected on the events of the past few days. She had begun by believing she was marrying a harmless human diplomat for purely political reasons. She was ending by choosing to partner with a highly skilled intelligence operative who might become something much more important to her personally. The transformation from political arrangement to genuine partnership would take time and effort from both of them. But, as she looked at Marcus, really looked at him, seeing him clearly for the first time without diplomatic pretenses, she found herself looking forward to discovering what they could build together. Marcus, she said, tell me about Earth. Not the diplomatic briefing version, but what it is really like for the people who live there. It is a world of enormous diversity, Princess. Many different cultures, languages, environments, and ways of thinking. But all of them share certain qualities that I think you would find interesting. Such as resilience, adaptability, the ability to find hope and beauty even in difficult circumstances, and an almost unlimited capacity for forming connections across differences that other species might consider insurmountable. Zara smiled. Those sound like qualities that would complement Vorthak's strengths quite well. I believe they will, Princess. I very much believe they will. Outside the viewing port, the stars wheeled slowly overhead, marking the passage of time and the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. The alliance between Earth and the Vorthak Empire was no longer just a political arrangement, it was a genuine partnership forged in battle and sealed by mutual respect. And, at the center of it all was a marriage that had begun as diplomatic necessity and was transforming into something that neither government had planned for, but both would benefit from, a true meeting of minds and hearts across the vast differences between species. Princess Zaratil had thought she was marrying a harmless human diplomat. Instead, she had found a partner whose hidden depths matched her own, whose commitment to their shared future was absolute, and whose love for her was growing from respect and admiration into something deeper and more lasting. The alien princess had been right about one thing: her human husband had indeed been harmless to her personally. But he had proven to be very dangerous indeed to anyone who threatened the alliance they were building together. And that, Zara thought as she watched the stars, was exactly the kind of danger that the galaxy needed more of.